All right, I'm hitting the record button. We're recording.
Okay.
We're live.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
We're recording. Sweet. Then we are ready to get started. Hey, everyone. It's Maggie Davis. We've also got Jack Pilgrim and Zack on the call. How y'all doing?
I'm fantastic.
We're less frozen than you are.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
good.
actually visible.
That's
We
a
look
good
good,
start
Zach.
for me.
We're crystal clear, and we're present for this incredible debut show. While Maggie is she's on vacation. That's a plus, but I think the downside is she didn't splurge for the premium internet service.
Can you all see me now? Seriously?
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
You look like a leopard.
We can make it work. Good. That's what I was going for. Oh, that's funny. All right. Let's actually try to talk about something. You all want to?
I'm
yeah,
for
Maggie,
it. Let's go.
Start us off here. What are we doing here?
All right. Well, I think we should just talk about what everyone is talking about, and that is when the heck are sports going to come back? Obviously, we've seen a little bit of NASCAR, some golf, a little bit of high school basketball, which we can talk about in a minute, but just a lot of questions about some of the other ones called football, called basketball, NBA. I like to think we all like the NBA here, but Zack, we'll call you our NBA expert of the group for now. Watch out because Jack and I are coming for that title. But what do you think of this whole bubble concept? Is it going to work?
Is it going to work? Probably not to the way that they want it to. It seems like there's already hiccups going on every couple days now, Jack. It feels like 2 days ago they basically said that all the players are kind of going against this thing right now.
Yeah, Kyrie Irving. Okay, so I'm a
diehard your favorite
fan.
Person in the world.
He's ruining it all. He's ruining it all. Like they had a beautiful plan in place, which ended up kind of backfiring because they ended up saying that the Disney personnel staff weren't going to have to go through the same bubbling protocol.
That's others, number one issue right there.
That's an issue.
Why wouldn't they do that?
If you are going to, make the dedication to participating in this experiment, you're all in. This is not a half-assed situation. If you're going in with it. So I think if the NBA players and coaches and personnel have to, isolate themselves from the world for, a couple months, I think everybody, Mickey Mouse, I'm sorry, you're stuck there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts there.
I think ultimately they end up all going down there. No matter how big they all kind of talk right now. Someone made a good point today earlier. I forget exactly who it was. I think it was Bomani Jones on Twitter saying how Dwight Howard was talking about, how they were going to take the time off to focus on the racial injustices. And Bomani made the point was like, well, it's not going to be done in a couple months. This is the thing. This is the thing that's going to take years to invest yourself in. So if all these players are just going to try and take a couple months off to do that, that's not going to end it. That's why people were kind of criticizing LeBron yesterday when he was like, well, we can do both. And it's like, they're probably going to have to do both unless they just want to straight up cancel the season, which is what we're kind of inching closer to every day, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, you saw Dwight Howard, his statement, he said, no basketball until we're there. And I'm like, we've been seeing racial injustices in this country for the last 100 years. Are we just never going to see basketball ever again? Like, I mean,
yeah. So there's a reality there where it's just like, if they cancel the league, that's the billions are lost, and there's also there's the other side to it where all these players are understanding their position they're in, but it doesn't seem like they fully understand how long something like that or how invested they'd have to get into something like that would be.
And the problem with that is. I was just going to say the problem with that is if that only comes down to a couple of players wanting to make that decision, that's fine, but the league's going to move on without them, and that's going to hurt everyone involved, where it would be better if you could just go all in. Let's try to do both. Like LeBron said, like we can play and be advocates for this cause that we believe in, that we want to advocate for, and that's going to help the NBA. That's going to help the racial injustices, bringing more attention for this. They were
Oh, Maggie.
I don't think it's going to help in the middle of it.
You're like right at the punch of your point, and it went out. Good. Try one more time.
I promise it was a good point.
Ultimately, I think they play the season. I am personally starting to believe that they should just cancel it. I think it's going to end up being too big of a risk anyways. I know that's probably not a popular opinion. And the financial aspect of it is a little daunting, especially with if they have to rip apart the CBA, because that's going to screw a lot of players down the road. I know Bam and De'Aaron Fox came out yesterday and were kind of like, what the hell is going to happen to us next year when we're trying to get these big contracts? So that's the type of stuff that has to be brought into consideration as well. I get why the players are all pissed and, trying to step up for what's happening in the world right now. I just don't see how they can take all that time off too from basketball.
I'm just saying they have been they've practically had a 4-month off. I think we're approaching a longer off season with what we're experiencing right now than what we experienced during normal off season. So yeah. I think, that sacrifice of being away from family, that type of argument that some players are making. I know a few have been outspoken about how, being isolated and not being able to go out and do, normal things. My argument is you've been with your family. You've kind of already been through your off season. Now you're approaching the normal season. I'm not all the way as much for that as I think that the main concern on my end is fixing the Disney issue. I think Disney needs to come forward and say, maybe we
quarantine employees.
Maybe we approach it with minimal staff. Say we're going to quarantine X number of employees, but just know that you might not get the top-notch dining service, or your golf course might not be as beautiful as an NBA player might normally like it. If the NBA players are going to have to make sacrifices, the people that are putting forth the presentation are going to have to be have to sacrifice in terms of Disney.
Well, let me pose a question to both of you, and I'll let Maggie start. So let's say we had to go down to Orlando and Walt Disney World, and we were forced to be stuck in this bubble where you literally can't leave the complex, from what I'm understanding. Obviously, you're going to be like waited on, and you're going to have, the staff, and you play basketball and whatever, but would you want to go do that? Maggie?
At this point, can you hear me? At this point, I would say yes. At this point, I would say yes, because I've been inside for 4 months. I'm dying to be with my teammates. I'm dying to play basketball again. Obviously, if I'm in the league, I'm competitive. I want to compete. All that stuff, I think, at this point factors in. If you would have asked me that maybe 4 months ago, I would have been like, I don't know what's going on. I don't need this. I'm going to go home and hang out with my family for a little bit. But at this point, I feel like we've moved far enough along where I'm ready to get going again. And if I'm safe, and if I feel that the league is putting the proper precautions in place to keep us all safe, then I'm okay with it. If I don't think I'm going to be safe, or if I think that I'm really truly going to sacrifice my own health or the health of my family for it, that's a different story. But if I feel like if I feel like the league and Disney in general is doing a good job, yeah, I'm probably in.
Yeah, I think Adam Silver is without question the most respected, front office official across all sports. He's, without question above Roger Goodell, the MLB commissioner. We see what's going on with the MLB right now. It's just an absolute
I don't even know
chaotic.
The MLB commissioner's name.
It's Rob.
It's a mess.
Rob something. I don't know. Sanford,
MLB is
something
a mess.
like that.
Doesn't matter.
It's what they are doing right now. I trust if I were an NBA player, I trust Adam Silver to put forth the best plan, the safest plan, because I know, because of his position, he knows the worth of the players. He knows the worth of the game itself. He's not going to put those players, the safety and their health in jeopardy. He's smart. He's a good people person. He's a dude that, complete side note, he could probably run for president or some high level official one day. People like him a lot. He's one of those type of guys. So I trust his decision making. If he, like a lot of the coaches that come out, a lot of the players that come out, if Adam Silver says we have presented a healthy, safe way to crown an NBA champion, I'm going to trust whatever he says.
I think Dr. Fauci came out.
The player who, sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it, Maggie.
I was just going to say, it's honestly, we hate to admit something like this, but it does matter if someone tests positive, who that person is. if it's LeBron James, this whole thing could be over. You know, if someone with that level of exposure and someone who's going to have that much of an impact on the rest of the season anyway tests positive and then he's out, as a player, I'm going to be like, well, if LeBron's not doing it, I'm not doing it. So I really think it'll be interesting to watch and see how that goes too.
And from what I've seen, like, if one team, if like half of a team tests positive, the whole thing is pretty much going to crumble. And if you start seeing scattered cases throughout teams, they said that that's not as bad because, you know, you can kind of quarantine that. But if like a whole team gets it, you know, that's no good. So what I was going to say though is, so here's a situation Karl-Anthony Towns is in. Obviously, Minnesota is not going down there, and he's not going to be one of the players. But he's in a situation where his mom recently passed away from the coronavirus, and he was protesting in Minnesota with the rallies. Is like a player, like other players are obviously going through stuff like that. I'm sure that other players have had members affected by coronavirus, and also all the racial injustices that are in the protests and rallies that are going on. So should we even be asking, you know, are players in the right mental mind state to go down and do stuff like this, where they have to go down and then be quarantined even more than they probably already are for another 3 or 4 months?
My argument is that the NBPA had that opportunity to present those questions to the players and talk about it. And from my understanding, it was a unanimous vote. They were all in on the possibility of this going on. You know, they at the time of the voting, when they were scheduling this and planning for a late July return and all that stuff, they had that opportunity to voice their concerns and all that. And if they were able to confirm the plans and say we're all in on this, my only thinking is they could have been outspoken and said, man, I don't know if this is a good idea. I'm voting no. They had a vote and went forward with it. At some point, we have to be progressive in the actual decision making. We can't, you know, we've been sitting out for the game stop in mid-March. At some point, they have to at least say, we're done with this or we're moving forward with this. The you know, wishy-washy back and forth, we don't know, let's wait and see games. I mean, at some point, the season has to end. They have to start looking ahead to next season. When does all that happen? I think the best plan is to go as it's going.
I think then then it goes into, you know, it's more, you know, the wishy-washy factor is just due to the fact that the coronavirus is so wishy-washy.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that's true. Very true.
Like a month ago, people were thinking that we weren't going to have fans at all or even start on time for college football, and now it's looking like that's going to happen, and there could even be fans. So, you know, Kentucky currently, as a state, our cases are trending back upward. Like, you know, this is something that's going to come back. Like, it's going to come back, and by the time the NBA wants to start again in late July, down in Florida, where Florida is a massive hotspot, it's preparing itself for the bubble to pop. It's just what it feels like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the same can be said about college football. I mean, we've gone back and forth about college football since March, basically when March Madness got canceled, and now it's like we finally are seeing players return to campus, and then all of a sudden, oh, these Auburn players tested positive, these Alabama players tested positive. Houston just ended their volunteer workouts after I think 6 players tested positive, and that's a whole different issue as we start to see more players return to campus and take these tests.
Yeah, so what happens when the first, you know, 5 or 6 players from Kentucky test positive? You know, what's going to happen for us? Jack, do you have any insight on that at all?
No, I think every school is going to experience positive tests, and I think it's about I think the schools know that going into it, that, okay, we're going to have some issues. You know, some schools might not, but I think the vast majority of schools are going to experience stuff like this. And I think it's just about okay, when we figure out who has what, we're going to isolate them. They're not going to be allowed back until they have 2 positive cases. I think that's the case with the NBA. If there is a positive case, they get quarantined off until they're able to come back with 2 negative cases, I guess. So I think that would be the case with college football, and, you know, keep going until, I don't know. I mean, like, Zack, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah. Well, that's not even in the discussion until this time next year, you know, most likely. So Yeah, I think if they're gonna try it, I think the only way to do it is to isolate those that they can and move forward. And if there comes a time that it isn't deemed safe, there aren't enough players to field, whatever the case may be, that's when they go, you know what, this might just be a lost cause. Let's not go for it. But until that day comes, I think they at least have to have some type of plan in place just in case it does work out.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost the same, like, sorry, what?
No, go.
I'm so behind you all, I think. I think I'm, like, lagging behind so much. I start chiming in.
The video's clearing up. We're good. We're whatever you have done in the last, 10 minutes, we're good. We're solid.
Sweet. I've not moved, so I'll keep not moving.
It was
the positive vibes. It was just the positive vibes.
I think you all jinxed me. Now you're frozen. What?
I don't think we are. I think, or we just weren't moving our heads.
Maggie, you got a COVID test, didn't you?
I think Jack I think you all just jinxed me and you froze me.
Oh, yeah.
I did.
We hear you
I
fine.
had two taken.
We hear you fine.
You can hear me?
Did you do the nose test?
I did. I did a nose test and a throat swab test. Both were negative, baby. No COVID here. But I did quarantine for about 5 days before I could get the test and then while I was waiting for those results. So it was like a little mini quarantine while I was waiting. But it was all negative.
What led to it? Who was the culprit of your
patient zero, test, if you will?
Yeah.
I don't know. I would just say one of my friends, her little brother, tested positive, and so then it was, okay, well, was I around her enough? If it was, she didn't even have it or he didn't even have it, and we were all waiting to get tested and no one had results yet, and it was just one of those things. I clearly had this vacation planned that I really wanted to come on with my
precautionary
parents. So I wanted to just be safe, so I quarantined for about 5 days, got tested, and it all came back negative, and what do you know? Now I'm at
There you go.
Came back negative. So
you earned it.
Now the rules, she doesn't have any rules now.
Yeah, no rules. And it wasn't as bad as everyone makes it seem to be. That video that Edith Cantor put out looked awful.
Did that not happen to you?
I don't think it was that bad. I think that's a little dramatic.
Give us a play-by-play. Give us.
Is it as long as it's 10? Was it as long?
Give us a play-by-play.
So okay, I was getting like the flu test, right? And they're swabbing your throat, your tonsils, or whatever, and you think like, oh, that's as far up there as it's gonna go, and then it's like, oh, that kind of hurt. That's kind of what it was like, but it was so fast that it was over, and then it was fine. So
I haven't had one yet.
It was funny because the nurse who gave it to me, for those who can't tell, I'm like 5'8", and the nurse who gave it to me was like 5'1", and we had to just stand on other sides of this like glass barrier. So I was standing there in this like, waiting room in a clinic in Versailles because Lexington was sold out of tests. So I drove to Versailles and I'm squatting in this waiting room, like, so this nurse can, shove this stick up my nose. And I'm like, 2020 is too much for me. I got, this is too much.
Yeah.
I'm draw the line.
I'm glad I've been a law-abiding citizen, and I've been quarantined in my new apartment. It's been a fantastic time. So I haven't needed to take a test. I've been feeling great. Health is A1 right now. So we're good. We're solid.
You had a wedding.
A Zoom wedding.
Virtual wedding. Virtual wedding.
All back, which I was not invited to.
I'm sorry. We set it up. We set it up the night before, so it was one of those things. We just tried to send as many links out as we could. Zach, I didn't know you wanted to participate. If you did, I have the replay of it. So if you want to be there,
Zach, you didn't even get a link.
I didn't.
Zach, you didn't even get a link. I didn't get a real invite, but I did get a link.
Okay, you don't.
Zach, I have a download link for you if you want to go back and watch it. I have it.
When you renew your vows in like 30 years. Hit me up.
Well, that's the thing. We actually rescheduled the original ceremony for September because we were thinking like, oh man, we'd love to, have all the family and friends that weren't able to be there the first time, like in person. it'd be awesome to have them there in person. But like now that we've actually lived and like we're like moving forward with a normal like life, it's like, man, scheduling a wedding and like doing all the invitations and doing all that, it's just like so we're as of today we're still tentatively planning that, but that's something that's
but it's a TBD
that I've brought up. That's something that I have brought up personally.
Interesting. Well, I won't be expecting a link for that either.
I'm busy that day. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm going to a different wedding.
Yeah. That's okay.
All right. Should we get back on track here?
I think we should.
What are we talking about?
What's our next topic? Let's rapid fire. Let's move something. Let's do something
Let's
cool.
roll down to Nashville.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's take a trip to Nashville.
Yeah, speaking of me just staying in the apartment and isolating myself from people, I went to go watch basketball this weekend.
You broke the rules yesterday.
In Nashville.
Basketball, baby. I went down and I watched Sky Clark, 2022 5-star point guard. Kentucky has a ton of interest in him. Very likely he gets an offer in here in the next couple of weeks. Dynamic point guard, top 15 prospect, tight handles. He's, strong defense. He's one of those just all around fantastic point guards. He fit in well at Kentucky. He was participating in an open run down in Nashville. It's actually the Brentwood area right outside of Nashville. Alex Poythress was there.
Fancy,
so former Kentucky player. Current and former NBA players such as Robert Covington. Zach, you know how good Robert Covington is. Yeah, Bob Cove. Ian Clark, who was the backup point guard for Steph Curry when they were winning all their titles in Golden State, and Darius Garland, who, Zach, you're a big Cleveland Cavaliers fan.
Another one of my sons.
I was in the presence of one of your favorites. So yeah, Sky Clark is going heads up with Darius Garland. So Zach, what level of competition that would be for a lottery level NBA talent.
Well, how do you play? Did he hold his own?
He was. Darius Garland is Darius Garland. He was there's a reason he was
NBA starting point guard.
There's a reason that he's an NBA starting point guard. But for Sky Clark to be 2 years away from being at the college level, he's going to be a junior in high school this year, and he's going heads up against a rookie in the NBA who was starting for the Cleveland Cavaliers. That in itself just goes to show you how, he was hanging in there. He was competing. He scored on him a couple times, ripped him a little bit, playing tight defense on him. He looked really, really good. I think John Calipari, I've had some conversations with guys at UK in the past couple of weeks, and he's the one guy that UK is really wanting to pull the trigger on an offer here pretty soon. But with all this COVID stuff going on and the fact that EYBL was canceled and all these AAU events are canceled, Calipari can't go and watch them in person. And Calipari has this rule that I don't offer kids until I see them in person going into their junior year. So this is when the Sky Clarks of the world would get scholarship offers, but because of the circumstances, that might be pushed back until, whenever, or I believe starting tomorrow, actually Monday, Calipari, college coaches are allowed to talk to 2022 prospects. So Calipari could understand that the circumstances are a little bit different and say, screw it, I'm just going to, go against the grain and offer this kid because I know what type of talent he is. I could pick up the phone and just say, hey, man, I know things are, times are different, but we're going to change, we're going to roll with the punches and we're going to offer you a scholarship like we feel like we would have normally and given the normal circumstances. So that could very well happen, starting tomorrow. We could hear of an offer tomorrow, or we won't hear about it until August. It's things are just so up in the air right now. But if I were John Calipari, if I were in his shoes, I think he would get an offer tomorrow. And
if you were John Calipari,
if I just this random hypothetical,
if Jack Pilgrim was John Calipari,
I got the branding. I could represent the brand really well. I'm just I'm a people person. Players first, baby. Like I got these kids.
You got some swag.
I could pull it off. I could be a people person. If it were up to me, I would offer him a scholarship, and he would be committed to Kentucky yesterday if it were up to me.
Well, that's good to hear.
Man, too bad it's not up to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Too bad.
I know it's a waiting game, but I think that day will come in the very near future. And without saying a whole lot, I think it would be in Kentucky's best interest to move forward with something like
What are you a lawyer who's still in school or something?
Allegedly speaking.
Potentially.
If I were you,
Louise.
I genuinely think it would be in your best interest to offer him a scholarship. Offer him Calipari. Do it. I promise you, it will work out in the end.
I know Calipari is going to watch this, so that makes me feel good.
Yes.
He's watching it. Yeah, he'll be the first to watch it. Click number 1 will be John Calipari.
Have y'all gotten to the point yet where
I think he will watch anything these days. Do what? I
was going to say, have you all gotten to the point yet where it feels weird watching 16-year-olds play basketball?
No.
No?
Yeah.
No.
I haven't gotten there yet, but I know I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
When they're in college, I don't feel weird about it. But when we're talking about recruits, and then I do the math, and I'm like, 2023, 2024, I'm like, oh my God, like they're freshmen in high school.
How old is Sky?
Sky is 16 years old.
That's a young boy.
16's the line for me. I can watch a 16-year-old. I don't know if I can watch a 14-year-old.
But
at the same time, Sky has like 250,000 followers on Instagram. Like this isn't a 16-year-old. This isn't uncomfortable.
Zack and a Dunbar 16-year-old.
Yeah, this isn't I'm uncomfortable in my own skin. I don't know how to act socially with people. This is a dude that I saw him yesterday leave the gym, and he was wearing a Sky Clark T-shirt with his, he has big hair. He has a little afro. He has a Sky Clark T-shirt that he got yesterday. His dad told me afterwards. He was like, "Oh yeah, we got those in today." Like this is a kid that knows his self-worth, knows what he brings to the table. He is a very, very, very popular kid. And so he will fit right in would fit right in at Kentucky. And he's not just another 16-year-old. This is
allegedly.
This kid's special, very special.
And if it was up to me, he could bring that T-shirt to UK's campus and sell it and make money on it. That is his name.
That's a good transition. That's a good
NIL
transition,
rules.
Maggie.
Let's
That's
go,
good.
Maggie. Start talking about it. Let's start talking about the NIL stuff.
Said it. Woo! Yeah, I'm a professional.
Go for
Here's something.
Well, if he was in Florida, he would be able to because how's that transition? Because the Florida governor did sign that bill into law earlier this weekend, saying that players in that state would be able to profit off their name, image, and likeness. And unlike the states like California and Colorado that have passed similar bills, Florida's, I think, letting it start next summer, like July 2021. Yeah. I think California's not till 2023 or so. So we're really starting to push the NCAA like, hey, we can't make this any more obvious. It's starting next summer in Florida, like it or not. What do you all think?
I think eventually we got to get to a domino point, right, where there's got to be one state that does it where just everyone starts doing it after. I feel like Florida would be that state, right?
Well, did you see Florida's statement? The governor released. He said, "We will be the first state to submit this," because I think California has it implemented, but I think it's not going to be until a little bit after this Florida. Florida went out of their way to say we're going to be the first, just so you guys know we're number one.
Yeah, they love that shit.
It's happening. It's a domino effect where the train is moving, and you have to either jump on or get left behind.
So then where's Kentucky fall? Where does our state fall in this? We're not exactly the most progressive in those type of terms, but we are different in the fact that, we are a massive college sports state.
Yeah, I think you got to look at that and understand that, like, if you're John Calipari and you're the higher up officials, in the government in the state of Kentucky, you understand that Kentucky basketball can present a pitch, a self pitch that nobody else can in this country. You look at a guy like Anthony Davis. I mean, I remember going to the Kentucky basketball stores in the mall and all that with the T-shirts and all that. And I remember going into there and seeing the brow down T-shirts and all that stuff. And I remember thinking, it is a damn shame that this store is making money off of this 18-year-old kid, and this 18-year-old kid won't see a dime from this until the day he gets in the NBA. And I know that's its own argument that, oh, well, he's going to be an NBA superstar in the future, but it doesn't matter.
Not all of them are.
But what if he had gotten to hurt his first game and never played?
Exactly.
Then he's lost his whole thing. It's just over.
That's the argument. I mean, look at Teddy Bridgewater. I remember when he was at Louisville was selling teddy bears with a number 5 football jersey on them with a football helmet. And I was thinking,
no, you can't make any conclusions out of that one.
I was like, Teddy Bridgewater, number 5, teddy bear? Like, are you shitting me? Like, that is the most just
what would have made it better is if a teddy bear was on top of a bridge over water. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of a stretch. I wouldn't personally buy that. I wouldn't buy that, but you bring up a good point considering you're already pushing it with it being a freaking teddy bear and it being at Teddy Bridgewater. Look at Teddy Bridgewater's career. He ended up going to the NFL, started his solid career. Knee exploded in practice one day. He has not since, I think he just signed a deal with the Carolina Panthers. He's going to end up being he's going to carve out a name for himself again. But if you think about the superstardom that he had at Louisville, he could have already built up a financial cushion, if so to speak, where that would, the big, if his knee exploded and he never came back, he would have had his first couple NFL checks, but that would be the extent of it. If you think of him being able to make at least a little bit of money to kind of build up a little bit of savings going into his NFL career, who knows what would have happened? I mean, he could have guys like that and people with brands like that, the Sky Clarks of the world. Why can Sky Clark, with his own face on his own T-shirt, not be able to go down the street and say, "Hey, I have 250,000 followers. I'm a prize prospect in high school basketball right now. I'm going to be a superstar at the college level. Why in the world can I not make money off of this T-shirt right now?" And I think Florida made it very clear that they want to be the first to, kind of change that narrative.
And I think if it was up to John Calipari, this would have been done years ago. Like,
how much money would John Wall have made?
Up about this. Yes, he's wanted this since as long as I remember hearing about John Calipari. He's always been players first. We joked about it earlier, but I do think he really does mean that. And then you look at the statement that Duke put out, and it's like, oh my gosh, these programs and these sort of philosophies on this could not be more different. Like, literally, one of the quotes in that statement was that allowing players to make money off of this allowed for a, quote, potential for abuse. Do you not know what's going on with Zion Williamson right now?
Zion made that school. Zion made that school so much money.
College basketball.
They are the biggest frauds in college. Coach K is the biggest fraud in college basketball. I've told the story on my podcast a bunch. I've said it on other platforms.
Oh,
Coach K is a douche. When I met him at Peach Jam last year, he was the biggest jerk on the planet. I was watching 2 courts at the same time. I was watching Paolo Banchero and Jonathan Kuminga, who are 2 consensus top 3, top 4 level prospects, talking the talk with the people around me. You're watching a game of basketball standing next to a legendary coach. Are you just going to sit there in silence like a little pansy? Or are you going to say, talk?
Never been
basketball?
In this position. I don't know.
So I'm just saying,
can't say
when you're in a room of other people, like-minded sports fans, you're going to talk sports. I was trying to talk sports with the individual next to me. I said, "Hey, out of the 2, who do you like?"
With the individual next to me.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't Coach K.
Okay, this is I'm not trying to do that. Oh, you know what I'm you
Get
guys know
to
what
the
I'm
point.
He says, "I'm not gonna talk to you about something like that." I remember I was like, "You little just words I
He's
can't
better
say
than
on
you.
this show
You don't
right
know?
now." Yeah, but he made that very clear. I mean, it's he's one of those dudes that he is the biggest sore loser on the planet, but best winner on the planet. If he wins, he's going to go and shake your hand and say, "Well done, you really tried your best. You'll get him next time, chap." And then if he loses, he's going to, storm off the floor or roll on the floor. Like there's that famous GIF that he put out where he's rolling on the ground. Yeah, that's Coach K.
I would comment on this, but my back hurts so bad right now. I gotta go. I gotta go.
Whatever. Coach K, he's a fraud. I can't wait for the day that he retires and this is all a moot point.
Maybe Zion will help take him down.
That would be fantastic.
That would be the ultimate plot twist. That would be the wildest thing.
There's not another coach in college basketball that I dislike more than Coach K, without a doubt.
Well,
I wouldn't even say
player.
Go ahead, man.
Go ahead. Oh, thanks. I was just gonna say, if I was a high school basketball player trying to decide between playing for John Calipari and Coach K, and you read everything Cal has said over the course of the last decade about, I want my players to make money. Why aren't my players making money? My players are going to the league. They should make money first, whatever. And then you compare that to this statement that Duke just put out, a bunch of honestly BS about we don't want to exploit our athletes. Why would you want to go put yourself in that environment where even if the NCAA allows this, your coaches and your administration and the whole Duke athletics umbrella is clearly not going to be on board. Whereas John Calipari is going to be busting his butt to get you appearances and to put you out in the community and to help you make money for yourself, because that's what he's always wanted to do. And I just honestly don't understand why you would ever choose to go the Duke route at that point after that statement.
Think about what we've heard in the midst of this COVID-19 stuff, all that. Think of the stuff we've heard of the John Walls of the world and the former UK basketball stars that have used their platform for not just, being outspoken about stuff going on, but to use their financial platforms to make lives better for other individuals, to be, to be selfless and to be charitable. Calipari has established that mindset in these guys that you are going to Kentucky and you are being a superstar at Kentucky for a reason. We brought you in because we feel like you can make a difference both on and off the floor. And, all of Kentucky's former guys are doing stuff to make a difference. I mean, John Wall's case it just stands out to me like no other because, he's in the midst of all this stuff. He's injured. He has his own stuff going on in his life, and he's going out of his way to make sure that people in his community are getting the help that they need. And it's just like you think of the Duke guys and all these other schools, the high profile schools. You don't see. You see some stuff in isolated cases, but you can tell that Calipari implemented something in these kids and continue to implement things in these kids that just, it's just one of those things. If you're a potential 5-star recruit, top 10 kid, how do you look at Calipari in the eye and go, that's not something I'm into? Like, if it were me, I just don't envision a scenario where I would be able to turn that down.
That's because you're so charitable, Jack.
I try my best,
Yeah. All right, let me go back to the NIL stuff real quick. Who let's say this all gets incorporated by next summer, or let's just say for argument's sake for the upcoming seasons, which Kentucky player, any sport, makes the most money? Which Kentucky player could make the most money? We don't have ideas of what they're going to make and how they're going to make and stuff like that. So I guess it's kind of impossible to figure out an actual number, but if you had to guess, I've
got it. It's the cheerleading team. And I know we have a lot of cheerleading stuff going on right now. That's a whole separate story that we don't have to get back into. But in general, when you're the 23-time national champion cheerleading team and you can charge God knows how much for a private lesson legally, you're going to make a boatload of money. And I think they would have the time and the money and the resources to do that, whereas these UK basketball players are going to make money off of appearances and selling merchandise. And, if you have another Anthony Davis with a unibrow come through, that's going to make a ton of money. But just on the day-to-day basis, those cheerleaders could make a ton of money on private lessons and camps and appearances and all that kind of stuff, just as much as anyone else could.
Well, that's a good point.
Does the past stuff kind of, hinder that ability? like the scandal? Is that going to take away from that stuff?
See.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't know. I don't think in general the program's reputation has been affected in such a way that would prevent a little girl from wanting to get a lesson with a UK cheerleader. I really don't. Maybe it would affect how much her parents are going to pay for it. But at this point, they're still national champions. And if my little girl wants to be on the cheerleading team one day and I have the financial means to get her a private lesson with the best cheerleader in the state, maybe even in the country, I just think it's going to happen. And it might not even be for kids in the state. They could travel. I mean, they're off season once football and basketball and their own competitions are over. They could travel all summer doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't even going, I was thinking in terms of the most profitable on-court or on-field guy in terms of Kentucky basketball or Kentucky football. My mind went instantly to BJ Boston, how he's already built that brand at Sierra Canyon alongside the likes of Bronny James, Zaire Wade.
Yeah.
He's been in that element of celebrity status for the last year. He knows how to kind of deal with roll with the punches and deal with celebrity status. He's one of those guys that would know how to brand himself in such a way that he could make himself a killing in his lone season at Kentucky for certain. Terrence Clark, he's done the same thing. He's one of those guys for sure.
Dante Allen would make a bunch.
In-state guys. That's a great point. On the football field,
but they're not going to have to deal with their own branding. That's why you go to a school like UK who has a built-in huge fan base, and you have a whole department that would help you work on your branding and your appearances and where you're going when and what your social media looks like and how much people are paying you. They wouldn't be dealing with that themselves. There's no way.
Yeah, I think on the football field, who would be that guy in this upcoming season?
I know. Who's our guy that could make the most money? I would say it would be Terrence Clark or BJ Boston on basketball side.
Yeah, I think the guy that everybody looks at in football would be Terry Wilson, but outside
but is he a guy that would? Does he have the
that's what I'm saying.
personality to make that money?
I've got it.
Who is it?
Go for it.
It's not a current player. He still counts. It would be Austin McGinnis.
Out of left field. That was not a name I was expecting.
Yeah,
explain.
It's the same principle. Kicking lessons. Everyone would want a kicking lesson. He would have more time for that than for Terry Wilson to go out and try to teach a kid how to be a quarterback. Yeah, that's not Terry Wilson's responsibility. But Austin McGinnis could go out and throw kicking clinics every other day.
Okay.
Well, that's the thing. Like, what are they going to do? Restrictions on stuff like that?
Right. If there's restrictions, that's a different story. But I'm just, in general, I think players who would be able to do private lessons or host clinics or go to a middle school team and be with them for an hour, that's who I think is going to make the most money outside of obviously like a huge name basketball star.
How much money would Austin McGinnis make on one lesson compared to Terry Wilson selling 5 T-shirts? How much more willing are you personally to buy a Terry Wilson?
Yeah, I don't know.
Terry Wilson shirt over getting kicking lessons from Austin McGinnis. That's I think branding.
The other thing I would say about
apparel, T-shirts, stuff like that.
Right. But remember, they're not going to be able to put UK anything on that, so you don't know necessarily that they're going to be able to sell those in specific bookstores that only sell UK stuff. You don't know if they're even going to get UK's help to sell things in that way, whereas I do think they're going to get help from UK on setting up appearances and lessons and stuff like that. I agree that you make more money on apparel and anything with your name and some sort of logo on it. It just depends on how much help they get from the university in terms of profiting off that.
Yeah. Long term, when you think about it, like a guy like Austin McGinnis or the UK cheerleading, Terry Wilson would be able to make it for, short span a lot of money. But a guy like Austin McGinnis could figure, this obviously doesn't apply to the Anthony Davises of the world that are going to make max deals in the future. Just in terms of the average Kentucky basketball or football player, the Austin McGinnis of the world in football, and I guess in basketball, the guys that, the Hamidou Diallos or the, Marcus Teagues, guys like that are kind of on the fringe at how long is their NBA career going to actually be? Those type guys could be able to do the long-term things like that, where the cheerleading, the Austin McGinnis, the specialty field goal, like that kind of stuff, you could create a long-term career out of stuff like that based on the branding that you established in your time at Kentucky. Yeah, that's a great point.
Depending on the restrictions they put on this stuff too, you know, like for a guy like, if you're comparing McGinnis and Terry Wilson, like Terry Wilson is like being a quarterback at Kentucky's full-time job. Like that's all he's going to do, that and then, you know, classes and whatever. For a guy like McGinnis, you know, no disrespect to a kicker, but you're just kicking a ball. McGinnis could make a full-time job out of something like that. And, you know, he could do that all week long. Whereas a guy like Terry Wilson, you know, he might have to sell T-shirts because he can't do that type of stuff except for like an off-season. You know, McGinnis could do stuff like this 30 hours a week all year long if he wanted to, if he could make the time work for it, you know?
Yeah.
So the money there, I think it just depends on, I think it's going to come down to how much the kids want to make that money.
Yeah.
And what sort of restrictions the schools and the NCAA are put
and
on
that's
how
the
much
key.
time you
that's
can
a big
spend,
key.
if there's a limit on how much money you can make. And those, we don't know that. And that's why I wish we had, and I think we will, fingers crossed we will. I hope we have a national sort of set of rules for this so that the players in one state aren't making this much money and the players in another state can do this many hours and someone over here can do this much. Like, I just wish it was a little more uniform than California passing a bill, than Florida passing a bill, and Colorado passing a bill. Like, that's why I think this needs to go national and just get it over with and make it the best case scenario for student athletes across the board.
And I don't see how you can put a cap on the money either.
Yeah, I don't think we should. I think they will put a cap on hours, especially like
definitely.
during the season.
Well, because like I just said, because if a guy like McGinnis wants to work 40 hours a week, what's going to stop him from doing that, you know? And it just depends, I guess, on how willing the NCAA is to letting these kids make money.
Well, I think I did a.
That's the age-old question, isn't it?
Yeah. How much common sense will the NCAA use?
Somebody at UK Athletics, I was taking a journalism class 2 years ago, I think, and they came in and kind of explained we all three of us were in the same classes. It's not that big of a deal.
Wait, you were a journalism student?
You never took a class with me, so.
I never had a class with either of y'all.
I'm saying we were in the same umbrella.
I know.
Of thinking.
Get there.
Anyway,
come on. We're just trying to let me get to that point.
You wouldn't let me get to that point. An individual with UK Athletics came in and explained to me the NCAA guidelines. They have an hour by hour schedule for every single kid. The NCAA, they said that the NCAA is so strict on what they allow their student athletes to do. And, you know, they only allow a certain number of hours for, studies, for training, for practice, for on-court, actual games and all that stuff. So if they're in the past, if they've been as specific as they were, before all this stuff,
no money,
I have a hard time believing that they would not set you have to, if you're going to participate in this, you're going to have from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. every single night. You are only allowed to make X number of dollars, and that's fine. Like, I have a hard time believing they're not going to be extremely strict on how they implement these things.
I would imagine the hours.
I agree.
I would imagine they probably restrict time, like months of the year where you can't do it at all. Like, I would imagine, during like tournament time or something like that, I bet they're like, no, you're not doing anything. Like, you're focusing on the school, and once the season's over, then you can go do all your camps and sell and stuff. So I imagine there's going to be a lot of stuff like that.
Ultimately, the NCAA still wants to be in charge. So that's why I think they need to be the ones, if they're going to do this, to set the rules so that they're not like, wait, but this state is letting you do this, but we don't want you to do this. And then the states are like, I don't care what this organization says. I'm a state government. And that's why, there's a lot of moving pieces right now, and I think we could go on about this for a long time. I'm going to go eat dinner. You all have any closing thoughts?
I guess Maggie has to go. Wow. We've already been doing this for an hour?
This is a lot of fun. I enjoy this. This is
a lot of fun.
We don't have a name for this. We don't know what this is going to turn into, but we're
the Jack and Zack show
with special guests.
Yeah, featuring our third guest.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see how that goes for you. It's the Maggie show featuring two dudes.
Maggie and the axe.
Maggie and the Axe.
If you want to call yourself the Axe, that's fine.
I'm here for it.
That's fine with me.
We'll figure all that out later.
Well, we might do this again sometime. This has been fun.
Give us feedback if you enjoyed this. If this is just a random Sunday evening banter with the KSR young crew. I guess I don't know.
Youngsters.
We don't have a name for ourselves.
And hopefully, and hopefully we're not missing any breaking news right now since all of us weekend warriors are on a Zoom call just talking.
You guys are on the clock.
If there's anything missing on the site, let us know.
I'm good. That's on y'all.